So I write most of my talks in bed, half asleep, and when I'm waking up in the morning. I don't know about y'all, but that's when my ideas come to me. And I start right before I get up, I start kind of lining out bullet points. So some of the things that came to my mind where I was like, well, there are different kinds of leaders. So let's talk about 3 types of leaders real quick, and feel free to interrupt and throw things out. We're going to be super casual today, but 3 types of leaders to me. One would be leaders by design, and that would be some of you guys and not some of you other guys. To me, that means if you start off knowing, I want to be a teacher, and as time goes on, maybe I don't just want to be a teacher, I want to work into a certain part of teaching. I want to go into administration. So you start building your educational background around a goal of leadership. Maybe if you work in the hospital, same thing. You decide, I want to work in hospital administration. So to me, that's leadership by design. That's someone who sets out with a goal to make that their career. I would guess, and I don't have any stats for this, I would guess that's probably 10% or less of all people that become leaders, right? That set out really with that as their goal. Maybe in coaching, I could see that being something where you set out and you say, okay, I'm going to study kinesiology in college. I'm going to go into coaching with the goal to be a head coach. I'm going to lead and mold minds. But I would say more people than not do not start off that way. Then I started thinking, I don't know why the analogy came up to me, but I thought kind of pinball leadership. So I'm picturing, what do you call those things? You pull the thing back and those flapper things, it knocks it down. I started picturing something bing, ping, pinging off of everything. Because I think I'm going to work over here. No, it turns out it's going to bing me over here. No, I'm going to go back over here. You start getting toward the hole and you get the flappers and it pushes you back up. So by the time you look back on your career, you've probably ping-ponged around to a bunch of different things until you find yourself in a position of leadership. And maybe that really wasn't your intention, but after a little pinging and ponging, that's where you've ended up. And hopefully it's a good fit for you. I think one of the most common types is the 3rd type, and I consider that leadership in a vacuum. And both of my daughters, I would say, have a lot of leadership traits, but no surprise, the older one has more leadership traits, and I think that's pretty common. And as she's pointed out, she goes, I don't really need to be in charge. I don't care to be in charge. She goes, but when no one else steps up, which is most of the time, I do it. So to me, that's leadership in a vacuum. How many times have you looked around and thought, I don't know that I have the energy to make all the decisions today or to lead this whole group, but you look around, everyone's just looking at you. And it's time. We would go, I remember being out on she went to Heritage, my other one went here, and we were at their Washington, D.C. junior trip. I was one of the chaperones. We were up there, and you got a group of 30 people, and everybody's trying to decide where to eat lunch. You ever been in that deal? 30 people trying to decide where to eat lunch? And so everybody's just looking at everybody. And so, of course, she pulls this thing up and she's like, okay, we're going to go to Shake Shack or whatever it was called, I think. It's this far away. And somebody's like, well, I want this. We'd walk by. There's a steakhouse. She goes, yes, and I know your budget. You cannot afford that. And you're going to complain the minute we go in there. We're going to Shake Shack. It's got 5 stars. It's on Yelp. And no one else is stepping up. Everybody's kind of whining about a few things, but no one, and it's like after 10 minutes of standing there hungry, someone has to get the map on the phone and start walking, right? And what you'll find is typically everybody will follow that one person who'll do it. So I don't know which one of the 3 you think you end up in, whether you were by design here, whether you ping-ponged around, that's probably me in some ways, or if you become a leader in a vacuum just because it's been maybe a natural gift, but one that you aren't that dying to put off onto people, but you're the one to speak up and do it. So I thought, okay, so if we know the types of leaders, what more importantly are the traits of a good leader? And we've all exhibited some of these and sometimes not exhibited them. I certainly don't exhibit them 24/7, but these are certainly my goals. The number one thing I think it takes to be a good leader is humility. I think you have to not think you are better than anybody, you are above any job. And I find a really good leader who's the most advanced will be the most humble person. The example I love to use of this is my younger daughter was in my office one day, home from school, and I keep getting interrupted with phone calls. We're trying to get this project done. I'm interrupted. My assistant's coming in saying, SealySocks.com has been hacked, which was my daughter's website. And she's looking going, we don't even use that. What do you mean? Apple's calling. She goes, isn't that a scam? So people are interrupting with what they don't know are silly things or big things. That could be a huge deal, right? So it's just in and out interruptions all day. And she's just sitting there with her head in amazement at the amount of interruptions. And then all of a sudden, someone else runs down the hall and says, the toilet's overflowing. So, it's a new building. Who knows what's going on here? So I get up and I just go grab the plunger and I start plunging this toilet. And I got my cell phone over here and I'm dealing with this other issue. I come back in and my daughter goes, This is ridiculous. This whole environment's ridiculous. All these interruptions, and why are you plunging the toilet? I said, well, if not me, who? You know, what makes me better than anyone else not to occasionally have to pick up the plunger and plunge the toilet? And I think that's the lesson. People don't want to follow you when you're always looking at who's beneath them to go do this job. It's everyone. Everything is everybody's job who's at the best place to take care of it at the moment. Okay, and what I have found is people will follow you to the end of the earth when they realize you're not better than them, and we used to have Scarlet Women's Retail Store and T. Rose Quilts back in the day, and I felt like I had employees that would do anything for me because my car was always there when they got there, and it was still there when they left. And they knew that, and they knew that I wasn't just giving them assignments, I was definitely putting my money where my mouth is, putting my time, which is all of our most precious asset, right? So I don't know if you guys ever run into that situation with people you lead, but I bet you do. And you guys have risen to these positions for a reason. And you're probably very giving of your time. And you don't look at anything as being beneath you. So I think any good leader is humble. Doesn't mean you're not confident. Those two things go very well hand in hand. You're confident, you know your place, but you are the one who will occasionally, I call it, you just pick up the plunger. Got to do it sometimes. A second trait I would say that's really important would be empathy. You've got to be able to put yourselves in their shoes, and it's the way we word things and say things. The other day, we've got a door at our office. Did you know how sometimes you get to where you push door closed and it doesn't close well? Kind of bounces, something about the strike plate's not quite right. Well, that started happening. And I don't know if any of you follow me on Facebook, but I have got Princess Coco, the world's most beautiful white Persian cat, who goes to work with me every day and goes home, and she's always in my office. So it's not even just like, oh, the door is open, bugs could get in. My first thought is Coco could get out. Something could happen if that door doesn't close. So in one of our meetings, I just mentioned, I was like, everybody be double careful and check that door, because if you just run in and slam it, it's probably going to bounce and it's not going to close. But instead of just saying that, I said, it happens to me all the time. It's happened to me. I have to watch it, to be really careful and make sure and close it. I don't think about saying things like that, but one of my agents laughed. She goes, she's always so nice. Notice how she always says, I've done it myself. She goes, I'm pretty sure you've never done that yourself. But it's being empathetic and putting yourself as, let's just say you're overseeing some kind of a cleaning assignment. And it's like, you know what? I always have to be really careful not to leave streaks whenever I'm doing this, because here's what I find happens. When you're saying that, instead of, don't leave streaks on the floor. Do you see the difference, how it changes the whole conversation? Versus, has this ever happened to you? Whenever I'm doing it, here's what happens to me sometimes. Once you're side by side and you're in the same boat, it just changes the conversation. And they're much more willing to listen than instead of you're lecturing them or getting onto them. So that's one example. I've been listening to a really good book on Audible called Never Split the Difference. It's a negotiating book, and it's really great. But he came up with some things I've always thought, which is the words who and why, in particular why, are just not good words. They need to almost be removed from your vocabulary when you're in a leadership role. He says because when you're saying, why, it's not going to go well. Because people hear, why did this, and it's accusatory. Immediately, it's, why'd you do this? There's rarely a good answer to that. I was always like, why did you leave streaks on this floor? I mean, what do you want them to say? Because I'm stupid? I mean, there's no good answer to, so you've put them in a defensive position. He would say in the book, a better thing is always to say, how? How? We come up together. How can we avoid getting streaks on this? So let's brainstorm this together. Not why did you do this, or who. I thought it through myself, who I kind of added. Who plus a verb. This is my husband's thing. I got to watch him about this. We laugh about this all the time, because if someone's, who left the door open? Who and then a verb, who, whatever it is, no one's going to raise their hand. Who left streaks on this floor? Do people just, that was me, No, everybody sits there and looks and they're like, I don't want to say it. Instead of brainstorming a solution. Who lost that lavalier mic? Who took it? Who moved it? Everyone just sits and looks. And in truth, either they don't want to say they did it, or more often than not, they don't know they did it. They don't remember. Usually people don't realize or remember they're the one that made the problem, and it wasn't intentional. So they're not going, you know what? I remember last February taking that lavalier mic and I put it somewhere that now I can. No, they don't know, so they're all just going to look at you. And now you're adversarial. Who did it? who did this, who left the door open, who whatever, instead of just saying, hey, how can we avoid this happening anymore, because I'm really, and then get to the heart of it. I'm really worried Coco will get out. You know, how can we make sure that we get this door closed, not who left the door open. That's never going to get you anywhere, or why did you leave the door open. So it's not that people don't do things wrong and we have to train them or show them the ways of what we need them to do. But it's starting off with those accusatory words that tend to kind of amp up the situation instead of making it better. The third, so we got humility and empathy. The third is, I think, the most important, and it's my absolute favorite thing to talk about. Have any of you ever watched or listened to anything by Gary Vaynerchuk? No, a new territory, new audience. Well, I could just peel for this and pretend it was all mine. He is an amazing thought leader. He is full of curse words, so it'll be like nails on a chalkboard. So I like to say I'm a little bit Gary V, but rated G, because I can't do the cuss words. I can't even handle it. But he speaks all the time about something that I'm older than him, so I've been talking about longer, but just in my own little family, in my own circles. And once he said it, I said, yes. This is what I've been saying and thinking. This makes sense to me now, which is self-awareness. So we got humility, empathy, and self-awareness. And truthfully, I think self-awareness is the most important factor in leadership, followership, any kind of ship. It's just the most important human trait. So what does it mean, self-awareness? To me, it means being unemotionally aware of your strengths and weaknesses. Unemotionally aware of your strengths and weaknesses. I'm lying there in bed, just trying to define what words would I use. I didn't want to look up in the dictionary and see what it said. I wanted to see what it meant in my mind. And this is an extremely rare trait. It's a continuum, right? We're all somewhere on it. Some are really bad at it. Some are really good at it. We're all working toward being better at it. Let me give you some examples of self-awareness. There's some people, we could sit in a meeting like this at any of my offices that I've had in the past, and there will always be one or two people that no matter what you say, I don't care if you're teaching on deep tax law, whatever it is, everything is yes, I've always said that. I know, that's what I always do. We know these people, right? No matter what is said at the meeting, I don't care if you bring in the president of IBM. Yep, I knew that. That's how I do it. Yes. It goes on. And I'm thinking, even if you are the smartest person on the entire planet, you do not know everything about everything. I'm sorry, you don't. But somehow, if I'm wrong about that, because I can be humble, if I'm wrong about that and you do know everything about everything, then at least nod and say, that's a unique approach on that. Or I like that tactic. I haven't thought of it from that angle. But what it tells me when someone knows everything about everything is they're incredibly unself-aware, because they are not appraising what they're good at and bad at, because none of us is good at everything. And the problem with that is once I realize you have no self-awareness, I've lost interest, because I can't trust you. I've lost trust. You may be the most honest person and you're not trying to lie about these things, but you don't realize that you don't know everything. You don't realize you're not good at everything. So I can't trust your judgment. I can't trust your judgment in what tasks I can give you, because you don't know. You'll tell me you can do it all. And I can't trust your judgment really about other things, because now I've lost faith in your judgment, right? So let me give you some examples of self-awareness. This is my absolute favorite, and when I felt like I had done a good job as a mother. Never perfect, again, but a good, because my kids are humans, so they do dumb things and they do smart things. They're humans. But this was really meaningful to me. I would say my daughter was about 12, maybe 13. So I picked her up at dance. My friend had already called me and said, hey, our daughters, mine just called me and said, our daughters didn't get in that special jazz group at dance. And they danced since they were this big. Competitive dancers, we were there 12 hours a week. So that was like being on the varsity football team. That was our life, was sitting on that floor at the dance studio. They had solos, duos, trios, everything. So she calls us, they didn't get in that advanced jazz group or whatever. And I thought, okay, well, for the most part, I was usually too busy working to worry too much about it. But nonetheless, I drove there and I picked her up. She gets in the car in the back seat. I said, so hey, what's up with that jazz group? I heard you and your buddy didn't get in it, but that Sally did. And she goes, yeah, that's right. And I said, well, what's up with that? She goes, oh, she's better than us. And I just, at that moment, it was such a beautiful statement, because it wasn't, she's better than we are. It was so black and white. It was so, well, she's better than us. And I looked and I said, well, she never has been very good. She goes, I know. She must have been practicing. She goes, her arabesques are fabulous. And I said, wow, okay. And my wheels are turning at the same time, and I'm going, I'm loving this, because there's no judgment, negative, positive, or anything else. It's just a black and white fact. She's better than we are. She should be in the group. And I immediately, being a typical mom at this moment, I go, well, you're a lot better at tap and everything, dumb comment, because what does that have to do with this? And she kind of looks at me kind of that way, and she's like, yeah, I know. And it was, the realization at that moment was, I don't need to hear anything else to make me feel better, because I don't feel bad that she's better than me at one thing. It was kind of like, I don't need an 8th place trophy, all these things we talk about in our society these days, right? But I loved, at that moment, I saw through so much. I thought, okay, so we've got my friend and a daughter who are all up in arms about this. My daughter gets in the car, and her simple answer was, she's better than me. She's better than I am. And I was like, but she's always been terrible. She goes, yeah, something happened over the summer, because she's worked hard, she's good. And I said, you know what, with that attitude, you will go so far in life. Because it wasn't, there was no excuses, and it didn't make her feel less than because someone did something well. So guess what that means? What that means is I trust her. Not because she's my kid, I trust her, because she will also get in the car and go, I nailed that audition. I don't have to sit there and go, oh, I'm sure you did, sweetie. Because she will come back and get in the car and go, man, I stunk. That was terrible. She will tell me the truth. And the more you empower people to tell you the truth, it's a game changer. And both of my kids, despite their other flaws, they both will tell me. As a matter of fact, my younger daughter, Celie, she's cracked me up before, because she will always say what she's good at and it's almost a hobby with her, is to tell you what she's good at and what she's bad at. She went off to Berkeley, College of Music up in Boston. She would tell me, which one she did well, which one she was surprised. And then she would always call me and say, well, I only need to get a so-and-so grade to pass, if on this final, to pass this class. And she left Berkeley after 2 years with a 3.8. So we were never on the verge of not passing. But I was always like, why do you always scare me with what it's going to take just to make sure? She goes, it was her worst case scenario. And then finally she came to me and she goes, you know what? I think I'm very self-aware, except how I'm doing in my grades. She goes, I'm much more critical of myself, and I'm always thinking I'm going to do worse. But she was self-aware enough to be analyzing that she wasn't self-aware about her grades. She goes, I need to give myself a break about that. I'm always thinking that I'm going to do worse until the grade comes in. I'm always kind of a worst case scenario kind of person. Kind of a follow-up to that is, I use my kids a lot as examples because they've taught me probably more than I've taught them. The follow-up, the older daughter who got in the car and said, well, she's better than I am, went to college out at Pepperdine, and she was studying engineering. Crazy. And I said, you're an entrepreneur. You will never be an engineer. Are you crazy? You're never going to sit, and it's not who you are. I know you can do math and science, but it's never going to be you. But she wanted to do it. She wanted to prove she could. So she's out there, and she's taking physics. Now, I went to law school back in the day, so I always said, I've had some hard classes. I've never had a class where I was like, what are they saying? I don't even know what, she said, there are classes where you're like, I don't know what you're saying to me. What do these words mean? Physics, apparently, unless you're a science kind of person, are like on a whole different plane. And I said, I took hard classes, but I was never baffled by what is this teacher telling me, So she, on her own, went out and found a tutor in LA, and she would drive herself from Pepperdine to LA, an hour with traffic, would take tutoring on her physics class, and then would study in study groups, study by herself. She said the first week I was there, Mom, she goes, it's so hard. It's such a big leap to go to college physics. She goes, we're in a study group with my friends, and they looked at me and go, how'd you get in here? What are you doing in this class, She said, because they were like Leonard and Sheldon, basically, and here I am coming going, I can do physics, But she told me at one point she was doing 30 hours a week outside of class for that one class. 30 hours between tutoring and study groups. So she called me one day, walking back from a class. She goes, well, I got a 52 on my exam. I said, oh no, that's terrible. She goes, well, with the curve, actually, it'll be a B or B minus. I said, okay, first of all, that's insane. That 52 is a B. That maybe they should make it so hard. What's going on? So I told her, I said, honey, are you sure this is for you? You have studied so many hours and you get a 52. Her answer was everything. She said, I'll just have to work harder. She didn't skip a beat. She didn't pause. She didn't say, the teacher doesn't like me. The test wasn't fair. Her only answer was, I'll have to work harder. I said, you worked 30 hours a week for one class. How many more hours can you spend on one class? But I told her at that moment, I said, if that is your attitude on life, you can do anything on this planet. As long as it's not the teacher, the school system, the whatever, it wasn't fair, I didn't have enough time. If it's, I'll have to work harder, then you can't be kept down. But that's being incredibly unemotionally aware of what you can do and what you can't. No excuses. So to me, the number one thing, whether you're a leader or even if you aren't, is self-awareness. And it'll guide you through your whole life. It really will, because it makes people believe you. You know, how many of you run into people on a daily basis that exaggerate? Just 20% on everything. You know, everything's just a little bit blown up. I literally have friends and acquaintances that if they say, we went to this thing, it cost $100, then I know it probably costs between $50 and $70, right? Because, I mean, it's just so ingrained in their life to do it. And, you know, I appreciate my mom, who's almost 90 years old, because to this day she'll say, well, so-and-so told me, then she'll go, but, you know, let me just say, this is the best I can remember word for word. She's such a non-exaggerator. She goes back and forth going, no, I could have that wrong, but this is the best I can get it. Well, I trust that person. What they don't realize, people that exaggerate constantly, you lose faith in them. And you get the gist of what they say, but I'm never going to be able to quote you because now I'm backing up what you told me, and I know that I'm probably not telling the truth. I may mean to be, but I'm not if I got it from you. That's how important our words as leaders are. You know, don't blow it like 6 steps higher than it is, or it's like the boy who cried wolf, right? If you're always crying wolf, then someday it's really going to be a wolf. But they've heard it so many times that it's fallen on deaf ears. And that's a critical mistake in life and in leadership because you lose people's trust. They don't believe you anymore. I'll wrap up my portion with one tactic I thought that's important for leaders. I always like to give one strategic tactic. And I didn't create it. I'm just passing it on. And it's from a book. Have any of you ever read a tiny little book, easy read, called The 1 Minute Manager? Wonderful book, right? And we all forget it's one simple principle, which was find someone doing something right and praise them. And do it consistently. Because the next time when they're not doing it quite to your standard, you probably don't have to criticize because they notice the lack of praise. And then, you know, you're nice about it. Maybe you show them, you go along beside them, say, hey, how can we improve this? But every time you find someone working with or under you doing something right, say, man, you just knocked it out of the park on that one. Man, that's what I need from you. You are reading my mind. We are on the same plane here. The more you do that, they're going to want and crave that positive affirmation. And that's a real easy way of telling them what you like and not having to so often tell them what you don't like. Have y'all ever heard that stat where if you tell someone something negative, something they did wrong or made a mistake, the stat is supposed to be that it takes about 17 positive strokes to make up for that. If you tell me, if I take pride in keeping the office tidy, maybe that's one of the things I do, and you come in and tell me, hey, stuff's starting to look a little slack around here, that is what I'm going to hear. And the next day you tell me, oh, I like your shoes. Oh, you were really nice in that meeting. It's going to take 17 of those for me to forget you said that the office was kind of slacking off. Because in the back of my mind, that's what I'm thinking. And now I'm kind of in a tizzy and I'm spinning and I'm not doing things. Maybe I'm trying to help and overcome if I've got a lot of respect for you. If I don't have as much respect for you yet, then I'm really spinning in a negative direction and I'm looking for something to point out that you've done wrong. Maybe not to you, but to somebody in the coffee room. You know, that's what as leaders we want to keep down, right? We want to keep that positive vibe all the time. I have a car dealer friend, and I love the comment he made. We'll pretend the car dealership is called Fred Jones, because I don't want to use his name. But my guy was a manager at this place, and he goes, I tell you what, whenever I got 2 salesmen on the Fred Jones lot, and they're over there talking, he goes, I don't know what they're talking about, but I know it ain't good for Fred Jones. And whatever it is, he goes, I'm going to come and say, boys, we got some burritos inside. Let's go. He goes, I'm going to bust that up. Because whatever it is, odds are it ain't good for Fred Jones. And I loved his attitude. And he goes, I don't go get on them, but I know they're probably starting some of this little, And I was like, guys, you see we brought breakfast tacos in? Let's go get some tacos. And break it up in a positive way and keep down all of those little things. So that 1 minute manager of finding something they're doing well, keep that positive energy where they don't want to get in their little corner and well, he did something wrong. Well, I don't like the way she did that. She didn't like my office strategy. I don't like her this. And that's what happens so quickly if we don't praise. And I can be the guiltiest of it because I don't feel like, my friend Tammy and I talk a lot about, neither of us feel like we need a lot of positive strokes. I don't feel like I need people all day, because some people need that. It's not right or wrong. Some people need, that's their love language, is to be told that they're good at something. So the problem is if you're kind of like me and you don't need a ton of that, you'll forget that other people do, right? I forget to go around and say, oh, that is just fabulous. Look what you did there. And so I've got to work on the 1 minute manager. Every day I need to think, how many positive strokes did I give? Even that guy that gets under your skin, not take it back, especially that guy that gets under your skin, right, in your department. If you can give some positive strokes, you know what, slowly but surely that relationship's going to start to pivot a little, isn't it? Then if you dig in, he digs in, no one gets anywhere. You know, we've got to give over a little, and it's got to be genuine. Don't lie. Don't make up something he's not doing right, but find it. Everybody does something right. So that'd be my best tactic, is take that to heart, and today look for somebody that you work with, beside, above, below, it doesn't matter, and find them doing something that you appreciate and think is wonderful, and give them some positive strokes. Well, you know, it's kind of funny because it came up recently, where we have a client in one of our businesses. Again, I won't say which, but who is a top client, you know? So this top client comes in and says, for this reason and this reason, I feel like I deserve basically some special treatment. And so I have one employee who says, I treat everybody the same. And so I've got the two of them at my desk. And I said, you know what? You're both saying the same thing. You're both saying the same thing. Client, what you're saying is, you are one of our top income producers for us, and you're right. You're very special to our business. We need you 100%. And employee, what you're saying is you want to show respect even to the person who makes us the least. You want to show ultimate respect to everyone. You're saying the same thing, you know? And yes, I agree with you, client, that we need to bend over backward. I said, and what you need to know that you won't realize is I've told employee, don't come to me with a complaint about any clients until you can bring me what they made us this year. I want you to run a report of our top 5, 10, 15, or whatever, what income they brought to our business. That's how we feed our family, right? I want a list, and you bring it. You know what? They almost never come to me anymore, because by the time they have to print that off, they're like, shoot, makes us too much. I was like, exactly. And I said, does that mean they can call you up and cuss at you on the phone? Nope. I fired clients regardless of what they did if they mistreated my people. If they're asking for a little indulgence here and they want to be paid a little early, whatever their thing is. And I said, you go look at that and you get real about what we're going to lose if we lose this person. 9 times out of 10, they no longer even come to me. I said, the truth in life is that person gets a few more passes to be a little crotchety one day, or to do nothing abusive, but just to be a little bit of a pain. I said, you know, if you make us more money, you get to be a little more of a pain. And I sat there and told the client, he laughed. I said, you know, there's an axis in life. There are the clients who make us the most and never complain. I said, because he goes, I'm one of your best customers. I'm your best customer, which not necessarily. But I said, here's the axis. The best customer is the one that makes us the most and is always nice. Over here is the one that makes us the most, but it's kind of a pain in the rump. And he laughed because we have a relationship where I can tell him that, you know. He goes, I know. And I said, down here, clients who make us the least, but they never complain and they're always kind. And the worst case is the clients who make us the least and gripe all the time. That's the quadrant's got to go, okay? That make the least. I said, but you know, wouldn't it be great if we could even move you from this one over to this one, so it could be completely win-win and we can be on the same page? And I said, you guys just both are digging your heels in. That's what it is. You're digging your heels in to win. And sometimes when it's, depending on who the client is, you have to give even more than what you consider great customer service, fair customer service. You have to even go a little bit above what you want to do. You just have to. Because then you have to look at also, what if I don't? What if I don't? If they leave, they've got to bring me that paper and know the money we're going to lose, but what's that person not going to say about us? What's the lifetime value of a client? What is the lifetime value of a client's mouth? Being, it can be positive for you in the community or it can be negative for you. And I know my employee's going to say, I bet this client's going to be probably saying something about us anyway. And I said, yes, but as long as this client's here, his actions speak louder than words. If this client leaves, actions plus words, if those are bad, that's a bad combination, right? So you can't control what someone's saying, but if they're there, people go, well, you must be getting along pretty good. You're still there, okay? So yeah, you got to salvage those relationships anytime you can. Anybody else got anything? Anything you're dealing with that you want to maybe brainstorm the whole team here with? Y'all got this all figured out pretty good? Or if you're like me, just things don't come to mind right when I'd like for them to, right?
Yeah, let's come up with at least 1 or 2 good questions.
I bet y'all got some problems. They are running a tight ship here.
Got them thinking.
Yeah. Hopefully so. If you will start looking for self-awareness, not only in yourself, can you literally Sit down and do an exercise where you write down or you name the things that you are best at, and then write down maybe an equal number of things that you're not great at, that don't come naturally, you don't enjoy them. Can you be unemotionally attached to both lists? Because then you can feel free to say, hey, this is not my strength. I would love to have you help me with this. But you know what? I am really strong and I feel confident doing this, and I'd be glad to help you. The more you can do that, I know if I'm an employee, I'm going to trust them once they'll tell me that. And the ones that can do everything, I don't want to deal with them because I can't trust them to do anything. The ones that are woe is me, I can't do anything, I don't like that either. One of my kids came home one time and said, I hate going to art class because there's a girl in there that every day, her art, she says, oh, mine's terrible, when she knows it's probably the best in the whole class. She just wants to get compliments. And everybody goes, you're good, you're good. That gets old too. So see, it's both sides. You want to be like, it's okay, I'm not very good at art, but don't say it if you're good at art. Don't say it to get compliments, because those are out there too.
So what do you do within your organization to grow the people within your organization?
Well, you give them opportunity. I would say you give them opportunity to take a little leadership. You don't micromanage. I don't know about y'all, but I don't have time to micromanage. I really believe in hiring good people and getting out of their way. And if they prove that they're not good people or they're not the right people, then you hire quickly and you fire quickly. That's usually what they say is, the old expression is hire slowly and fire quickly, because you have to really take your time to get the right people, because no one wants to disrupt people's lives, right? But once you realize that somebody's not going to work in a role, you've got to make the decision quickly. Because the way I look at it, and I have to do it all the time, I'm not helping them by dragging that out. If it's short enough, it won't even be a blip on their resume. And if I can already sense it, there's been 1 or 2 times when I've let someone come in and convince me, really one time I can think of, convince me that it was all a big misunderstanding and everything was going to be wonderful. And I said, you know what? If for no other reason than I've never been set across from someone so persuasive, I'm going to let you try this. And of course it didn't work. So that didn't do this person a favor. It didn't help. So Gary Vaynerchuk, among other people, he said he's kind of switched it in his mind, in his organization. He says hire quickly and fire quickly, because the slow, he goes, that people can shine you on for the longest when you're in the hiring process, right? You're not really going to know until they're in your organization if they're going to work out. It's kind of like dating and getting married. People always will say, oh, you should date for. You only dated, because my husband and I, we met, our first date was in September, and we got married in January. Of course, we weren't 20 either, we were, right at 50, so it was a different situation, you know a little bit more. But what I said is, well, do you think he couldn't fake me out for another 4 or 5 months? And that'd have been a nice, respectable amount of time. But you're right, when you're dating, you can just be pleasant as could be for another year if you have to. Nobody's going to show their true sides until you hire them, and they're not going to show the true sides till you're married, okay? So Gary said just hire them. If they don't work out, fire them. And I tell you what, I've had to fire more people. And I am a normal human being. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But I had to let someone go yesterday. But it ended up being a wonderful meeting, because the way I try to have empathy. I said, you know what, this is not working. We have given several rounds of this, and I don't think this is for you. I don't think you're happy in this role. I think and this person goes, I'm so relieved. She goes, because I've been wondering how to do this. I said, you are ready to go on your own and do some things. I sense it in you. I said, you're an artist, and I feel like the confines of this corporate environment are boxing you in about 30%. She goes, yes. That's right. I said, you are ready to fly. And sometimes we got to be pushed out of the nest, don't we? Yes, you're right. So the more we talked, she left there crying. She said tears of joy. She was so relieved that she was going to start this new part of her life. So I wasn't saying, you don't work here. You're not good. You don't fit with us. I said, just because you don't fit here doesn't mean you can't be the world's best at doing your own thing. We need certain things right now. You're not in a season of life to do those things right now. So I'm not doing you a favor by dragging this out where you're stressed, because you're not meeting our expectation, and you're not doing me a favor by being here. I said, sometimes we need to take those resources and put them on this other part of the business right now. We've kind of got the cart before the horse, and it's time to spend a little more on the horse. And you, however, you got this. You've taken some new skills. You've made some new connections. You're ready to take this and grow your own thing. And she goes, that's really what I want to do. And I said, yes, this is great. And this was the best firing ever. She left happy. So much is how you word it. And, if I have to let someone go or give bad news, put it whatever your situation might be to an employee, go right into it. I'm a Band-Aid right off. I don't make small talk. The minute they come and I close the door, before I'm hitting my seat, I'm telling them what it's about. Because I hate that sitting up going, am I in trouble? I mean, that's horrible. To me, that's like torturing. You know, if I'm going to be killed, I'd rather have a gun to the head than slowly be burned. Don't sit there and just burn me to death, right? Get the news out and say, hey, you know, we've been talking and this isn't working. And then go into all the softening and going, hey, but here's why it's not going to matter. You're going to look back in this and go, that was such a great stepping stone to what I need. And then I said, I'm going to pay you for this whole week. You don't need to do any work. I want you to work this week on my dime building your business. Build your model and go out there and go crush it because I know you can.
So what you're saying, if you truly value people, it doesn't matter how bad they are, how good they are, you're still going to treat them with love
And I tell
care.
people it's all relative. I said, I've got one employee who's overseeing you, and she has one vision. You have a different vision. I'm not here to judge which one of you has the better vision, right? Because they're both opinions. There's no real right or wrong. But this person I have who's over this area, her vision right now really has to control because I don't have time to step in and be her. There might be a time when maybe I like your idea better, but I can't be her. I've already given her a role, and y'all's visions don't mesh. She's like, yes, and I feel like I have too many people to please. I said, you do. It's not a workable situation. It is not your fault. You're going to be amazing doing something else in some other situation. This is just not the time or place. So it's all about not someone's good or bad because they may not fit what you need them doing in your department, but they could be amazing somewhere else, right, in a different sector. I think everyone has boundless potential, and I treat them that way. Just because they're not working out in my organization at that moment does not devalue them as a person in any way. And I say that over and over. I say, you may be smarter and better than me, but right now this is my show, and this is how we're going to do it, and I can't have 6 different shows going, right? So you're going to have to work in a show that goes along with what you believe. You know what? When you're, and you guys know this as leaders, as I like to quote Gary Vee a lot, he says, if you're at the top, your main job, he goes, I've written it on applications before, is firefighter. Mm-hmm. You're a firefighter. And he goes, I've literally filled out things and said that was my job. He said, because I'm in here giving this talk, this podcast, whatever. He goes, when I leave, there will be 7 new issues in my phone that I have to stop right now and fix. I have to get in between people's petty arguments. There's going to be a client who's mad. There's going to be an employee who's mad. This is your job. You are a firefighter. So the challenge in that, you just have to accept it. Number one is that's going to be your job. If you want to be at the top, you will be a firefighter. But the real challenge to me is then you have to be able to carve out time to get your stuff done, or you spend all day fighting fires. You cannot be only a firefighter. You got to be a time blocker somehow. One of my favorites is people say you got to be real careful not to become got a minute guy. Because basically, how many times a day does someone say, hey, got a minute? And your whole day becomes got a minute. Okay? So you can't move the needle in your business or your organization because you're spending all day fighting fires and got a minute. So I don't always get this right either. It's one of my biggest goals for 2019 is to time block. To time block where people know there's a time for got a minute. There's a time when my door is open and you come by and this is just our brainstorming, collaborating time. I don't know your department, maybe that's 1 hour a week that you need that kind of time. When you can come and sit down, it's a safe place to come bring your grievances, your excitements, your ideas. But say so that I can move everything further for all of us, I'm gonna have time blocks where I'm not available for got a minute. Unless it's on fire, and then I say, better call the fire department, really, because I'm not really equipped, okay? Don't call me. But that, I think, is the toughest thing to all of you probably, if you stop and think about it, is you spend a lot of time putting out fires, so you can't do the big tasks you would like to do, right? To go, I really want to revamp the menu. I really want to go look into health. You can't do that because you're putting out fires and got them in it all day, right? Mm-hmm. I know that's always going to be the struggle in any organization, in any business. The only answer I've come up with, and if y'all have one, let me know, is time blocking. Giving them permission and free time, free spaces where they know you're open to that. They're safe to bring that to you. They won't be in trouble. And if you do that, I think they will respect your time the rest of the week. Let's put it this way. You got a better shot, okay? You got a lot better shot if you can I have some realtor friends, one in Boston, I know who has on her door her time block calendar, and you can see it color-coded when she is working in 3-hour time chunks. I'm the worst at doing everything all at once and 10 minutes on this, 10 minutes on that, swirling around taking this phone call, whereas I know I'll be more efficient if I put a 2-hour, 3-hour time chunk to work on this project, 3 hours to make calls, whatever it needs to be. And if you'll do that, she color codes on her door so her agents know, oh, during this time, she's going to be available for me. I would like to say, because I've done Miracle Morning before, which is the affirmations. You know, you wake up at 5 o'clock, you go through this whole thing. Not so much. I don't have so much to it. I just always feel silly writing down my affirmations or doing my meditation. It's not really me. I would say the closest thing I would have is in the shower. I like to be learning all the time, and I don't like that I have to take time out to shower and I can't be learning something. So I don't really have time for that, but it must be done. So I have a podcast on my phone at all times, and I get up in the morning and I decide which podcast I'm gonna prop my phone up and listen to while I'm in there. I do a lot of social media training, so I have the Social Media Examiner podcast. I'm listening to that. This morning they were talking about all the new Facebook group tools that are being rolled out. They're giving examples of what to do on Instagram. Then I'll take that content, boil it down to something smaller, and give it out to people that watch me on Facebook. And I'll say, you don't have time to listen to these hour-long things constantly, but I'll give you the top 3 things I heard that real people might use. This is really meant for marketers. Then I'll listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, who I go through times when I listen to him, times when I don't. Because have you ever listened to somebody or watched somebody, be it Oprah, I don't care, so long that when a question's asked, you know what she's going to answer? Mm-hmm. Have you ever gone that deep with somebody? I did that with Susie Orman back in the day when I used to watch her financial show years ago. I finally quit watching it because before she gave the answer, I knew word for word what her answer would be. And I have consumed his content so deeply, I feel like I already know. So I'll get a refresher occasionally, but I pretty much know what he's going to say. So for me, that's it, is to get my mind thinking. I do a little drive video on Facebook most mornings, and I talk about what I learned or what I know. And so that gets my mind thinking in terms of what I should talk about that day. Sometimes I think the night before, but for me, that's the most centering on getting concepts ready, something I can get excited about. For someone else, that might be listening to true crime or a mystery or something else different. But for me, I really like to study things, so I've found I can use my time best if the whole time I'm getting ready, I've got podcasts going. I wish I could say it was doing, Zen yoga and chanting, but it's not. Well, thank y'all so much. This has been so much fun, and I value the opportunity to get out in the community more and meet everybody. Sometimes I see you around town or on Facebook, but not as much in person. So I laughed one time. A guy came up to me and goes, "Hey," Jex was over there, and I was like, "Hi," and he stuck out his hand. He goes, "Oh wait, we're just Facebook friends. You don't know who I am." I said, "Well, first of all, kudos to you to having the nerve to say hello." I said, "The whole point of being Facebook friends is to be real life friends. So you can actually say hello in real life too." That's the goal, is not just to sit behind the computer, right? So opportunities like this, I think, even boosted up more. So I really do appreciate the opportunity. Absolutely. Thank y'all.